Welcome to Totally That Stupid. Instead of our usual written fleet report, we've decided to introduce our 2004 Land Rover Range Rover L322 on video. Um, Leaning more into video, so you'll see more content like this. But I've had this car now for probably about a month, and always wanted one. Well, at least since they came out. First time I saw an L322 was actually when I was selling a 1984 Mercedes 300D, and the couple that came to buy it ultimately arrived in their L322, and that's when these were brand new cars. So it must have been 2003, which was the year that they first came out in the United States. Anyway, I remember I was a fan of the previous model, the P38, and had actually driven one quite a distance. Actually, bought it up at the car auctions up in Manheim, Pennsylvania, and drove it back to the Northern Virginia area. In that particular case, the car developed a suspension fault after about 20 minutes, so I spent the whole drive from Manheim down to Northern Virginia with the suspension down to about here and the car bouncing. Just you felt literally every bump, and it kept flashing this warning saying, "Don't exceed." I think it was 25 or 35 miles per hour. Sort of a miserable ride in that sense, but overall, I really like that the size, the greenhouse, sort of the feel of the Range Rover. And then the L322, sort of all of that, but better. It was a little bit bigger, had a little more luxury. The styling, frankly, to my eyes, was better. Um, but still true to the old Range Rover sort of boxy, upright tradition. I think the new ones. I mean, I understand everybody's. You got to go smooth, you got to go aerodynamic, and all that. But there's something to be said for the old boxy, proper Land Rover. And so when this one came available, I decided to roll the dice. I actually looked at one once before. It was a black later model. I think it was a 2008, if I remember correctly. And it was yeah, like I said, black with black interior, sort of an English gangster car, right? But so that would have had the Jaguar V8 engine in it, and it was a brilliant car. Took it on a test drive. It was fabulous until I got back to the selling dealer, at which point steam was started pouring out of the hood and water was leaking everywhere. And I decided that was a sign from the universe that I probably didn't need to buy that Range Rover. But of course, that was several years ago, and the price was a lot higher. I don't usually say much about what we pay for cars and things like that, but this was a $6,500 car, and I got to tell you, I mean, and I'll show you more as we move on in the video. But this thing is straight as an arrow. It's not without needs. Um, and just as I moved it into the driveway, it flashed a new warning up on the dashboard, but that seems to have cleared itself. So they are a little bit of a challenge in that sense, but well, let's take a closer look. So as you can see, it's a tall thing. As we walk up to it, it's probably darn near a foot taller than I am. That would make it coming on 7 feet. I'm not quite that tall, but getting close to it. Solid car, but again, $6,500, and you've got super thick quality leather, and this one, other than some scratches on the door panels, on the near the door handles, um, the interior is in remarkably clean condition. Uh, Carpets are clean, and it's got that smell. It sort of smells like a Bentley. I mean, it's that combination of Connolly leather and the wool carpet. What is it? Wilton wool, I believe, is what they call it. Yeah, a couple little things, a little wrinkly on the door, but still has the Range Rover floor mats in it, the rubber mats, because it's a working car. Back seat is huge. Good sized back seat. Again, some of that finish coming off here. I've bought some paint that supposedly matches that finish, and so I'm going to be playing with refinishing those as time goes on. But notice heated rear seats and a separate climate control back here. It's sort of a basic one. Basically, you get a fan and then a temperature wheel. But you know, it's luxury. Certainly luxury for 2004. Tailgate, big opening area. And of course, the Range Rovers are known for these two-way opening tailgates. And it's got a lot of room in it. I mean, right now, with the seat up, you know, not bad, not bad. Put the seat down, and it's pretty darn cavernous. And so, it's a great utility vehicle, and it's been a nice add to the fleet, I have to say. It's old enough and cheap enough where I don't mind working on it myself and doing some of the things like painting, trim, and oh, what else have I done? Yeah, details. I actually, on the tailgate, if you come over here, you'll see I removed earlier L322s had a lip along here, a rubber lip, and they all disintegrate and you can't find replacements anywhere. But it turns out that starting somewhere around 2008, maybe later, same exact tailgate, but they actually just stopped installing that. The glass is bonded in with glue underneath. So it served no weatherproofing purpose or anything of that nature. So honestly, there's no reason not to pull it off. And there's videos all over the internet that just show you just get a corner of it and just pull it, and it pulls right off. You can see a little bit of wear mark on the glass, but honestly, it's a cleaner look. So, you know, when you pay $6,500 for a car in what year is this? 2025. It's a bargain. But again, it's not without its issues. So if we come over here, pull the lever to open the hood, right around here. We find the BMW sourced 4.4 liter M62 V8 engine. This engine came on L322 Range Rovers in the States from 2003 through 2005, after which it was replaced with the Jaguar V8 engine. A lot of folks will tell you that the later Jaguar engine is more reliable. And, at a high level, maybe it is. The BMW engine is a known quantity at this point. Um, everything service-wise is the information's available out there. The fail points on these seem to be related largely to either the Vanos valve timing system or timing chains. And, it's a not inexpensive job to replace the chains and the guides, what have you. But this one doesn't make the death rattle when you start it up. It did come with a pretty bad sort of Exxon Valdez-esque oil leak to it. It turned out that it needed cylinder head valve cover gaskets, rather. And the valve cover gaskets are very easy on this engine, especially in this car. You can see there's plenty of room to work in here, and it's a good motor. A lot of folks will tell you that actually the BMW feels a little peppier between the 5-speed automatic transmission and just the grunt of the motor, even though the Jaguar engine has a little bit more power. I think it's 30 horsepower more. Um, but the BMW just feels a little peppier by the seat of the pants. I think, ultimately, when you're talking about a 21-year-old vehicle, so much relies on the service history, the maintenance history of the car. And this one came with a very detailed, complete service history. Um, Suspension work had been done, various engine services along the way. It's a well-maintained example. And I think you have to rely for older cars so much on just how it was cared for versus, is this engine slightly better than that engine? A poorly maintained Jaguar engine will be um, catastrophic in comparison with a well-maintained BMW engine. And again, my experience with the Jaguar engine was that it blew up on a test drive. So, your mileage may vary, but I like this one. So among the other things that I really like about this car is I just love this interior. It smells good. Again, it smells like an old Rolls Royce or Bentley. You've got that leather and wool smell, and I mean, it still smells brand new 21 years later. The dash layout. The earlier cars like this one have analog gauges. They're simple, they're clear, tell you what you need to know, and of course there's warning lights for the other things that go wrong. Um, I love the console mounted ignition switch. It's very Saab-esque. So, put your key in down here, listen to the bing bong, and there you go. Start your Range Rover. The buttons up here on the very period nav system or head unit are very BMW, as are the switches down here. Anybody that spent time in a late 90s, early 2000s BMW be right at home. Even the sunroof switch is very BMW, this one here. Um, it's got some cup holder room. So I like to get my McCoffees and my McDrinks in the morning. So got this cup holder, got another one here that folds out. It's sort of a goofy thing, but it's functional. There's another one over for the passenger. But if that's not enough, the pocket in this door can accommodate, probably 3 or 4 large size drinks if you're that thirsty. The gauge cluster, as I said, very clear, very analog, but also notorious for having pixels burned out. You can't really see it terribly well. Well, if I shift it into gear and put it in sport mode, there you go. That actually says sport mode, even though you can't tell it does. Very fixable problem. There's companies on the internet. You send them your gauge cluster, and they have it back to you in a week or so. And it's not hard to get out. It looks very complicated, but honestly, you remove this vent, you remove the one on the other side, and then it's just a series of bolts to take off this dash top. One, two, three, four, and then I think there's two under here, and then one in the corner. One, two, so actually 2, 4, 6, 7, um, and then the gauge cluster is held in by another 2 or 3. It's really not complicated. Just something I haven't gotten around to yet. These all come very nicely equipped. You've got, like I said, in the back, you've got seat heaters. You've got the front seat heaters, 2 stage. They work remarkably well. Um, yeah, it's just a nice place to be. And ooh, it really does smell good. So let's get it out on the road and see how let's see how it does. Fires up beautifully. No rattle. Okay, let's go. Put my seat heater on. It's sort of a slightly chilly fall morning today, early fall, late summer. Um, One of the first things you notice when you start driving this car, I've had a lot of trucks, or at least a lot. I've had several trucks, and even now, our fleet includes a Toyota Tacoma pickup truck with the V6 engine, and my daughter drives a 2004, same year as this, Mercedes ML 500, and the ML uh, and the Tacoma as well are just, they're rougher. They're not as smooth as the Range Rover. And the Range Rover occupies sort of a unique space. So the Tundra that I had previously had a giant cab. It was a crew cab Tundra, um, just an immense amount of space inside the vehicle, leather everywhere, all of that, seat heaters, yada yada yada. Um, but it was still very much a truck, and as a truck, it's the ride's rough. It's jiggly. Find the same thing in the Tacoma, um, not surprisingly. But even the ML. So, the ML is a very capable off-road vehicle, and hers being a 500, it's got a larger motor than this. This is a 4.4. That's a 5 liter. If I remember right, the horsepower on that is well, it's north of 300. This one's high 200s. But this is very much more a luxury vehicle that's capable of hard work, as opposed to a hard working vehicle with some luxury accoutrements. And in comparison with the ML, this is also a much larger vehicle. I think, going forward, when they got into the next generation after the first W163 MLs, that's when Mercedes came out with the GL series, or so it was the larger Mercedes SUV, really intended to compete with the Range Rover. And I've thought about buying those over the years. They've got it's very similar in a lot of ways. You've got leather, you've got all of the accessories, you've got a powerful engine, and it's a capable off-road vehicle. But it doesn't have the same sort of je ne sais quoi as the Land Rover, as the Range Rover. And I haven't been tempted enough. And it's funny. One of the fail points on the Range Rover that you hear a lot about is the air suspension. This one still has its air suspension, and it works perfectly. But the Mercedes, also the GLs of the same or similar vintage, I think starting it was 2006 or 2007. Those also had an air suspension, and I've seen more than a few of them sort of down on their haunches. And I'm a Mercedes guy. I mean, I think if you've been a totally that stupid follower for any amount of time, that's readily apparent. Um, but honestly, in my luxury large SUV, I think I'm a Range Rover guy. This is just it's a comfortable ride, very smooth, very very smooth. Um, but but it's very capable off road. Land Rover knew how to make an off roader. They've been doing it for a long time. Add a little bit of BMW finesse to it, as they did with the L322, and you've still got a very very good off road vehicle. But it's equally good on road. Um, there's a reason that the Queen drove one of these and was driven in one. Um, I'm sure they got the L405, the next generation, for the royal family after. I think I've seen pictures of that. But apparently, they retained their L322s in the fleet up until her passing. For me, again, I got to drive a P38 back in the day. I actually spent some time in a Range Rover Classic as well, the original, the Ur Range Rover. Um, and it's funny that to me felt like a pretty tinny car, particularly at the window level. The window frames were very thin on the Range Rover Classic, but it was still very capable. But I think for me, um, what turned me on to the Range Rovers overall was honestly it was Jeremy Clarkson on his farm. So Clarkson's Farm on Amazon. Um, one of the unintended stars of that show uh, became his L322 Range Rover. It featured not insignificantly, starting in the first season and all through. I think what are there now 4 seasons so far, and And that car proved itself capable. It was constantly driving it on fields. I remember an episode where they were stuck in the mud, and well, not stuck, but dealing with the mud in the parking lot, and the Range Rover. You could see all four wheels spinning as they worked to get out of it. Um, but it just struck me as a pretty cool car. For me, I don't really take it any place other than on my errands. Although I might start taking it to our local Cars and Coffee. I think it's old enough and interesting enough to spend some time there. But nonetheless, I think there is a perception also, just sort of an image that these cars convey of whether it's class, whether it's I don't know, you're in the know about particularly these cars that were tens upon tens of thousands of dollars new. What, 70, 80? I'd have to look back. Add that to my to-do list, but certainly not insignificant sum of money when they were new. $6,500 I paid for this car, and I'm in it for a little bit more now after the valve cover gasket repairs and a couple of other small items. Had to get a new driver's door lock actuator, because that wasn't working, which meant that of all things, the interior lights didn't come on. And also, you couldn't use the remote to lock and unlock the doors. I mean, first world problems, definitely. But nonetheless, um, I'm in it for slightly more now. Still well less than $10,000 all in, and honestly, it's a lot of car for the money. So there really is something very, I don't know, it's very English about this vehicle, right? It's um, it's a little bit quirky. It's got personality. It's not cookie cutter. The Range Rovers really have their own just distinct personality, and I've got to say I'm really quite smitten with it. Uh, it's sort of a friendly car to drive, or truck, if you will. Um, I've always found British cars, you know, do take care of their drivers. Again, the leather's of good quality and it's comfortable. These seats are incredibly comfortable, and these aren't even the high end seats. These are just the regular seats. They had the BMW style articulating back seats as part of a package. Those are even better. I had those in a BMW 528i wagon. Different story, great car. That was actually my wife's car, and it was a 5-speed manual. Um, but it had the articulating back seats that are extremely comfortable. But these are right up there. And again, a slightly cool day. I have the heater on right now, and I'm quite cozy. As a large vehicle, it actually does a remarkably good job of navigating and handling twisty back roads. I don't. You can see that there's a lot of hills and turns and what have you on the roads where I'm driving right now, and and it's very competent on these roads. It leans a little bit, but the air suspension really does a great job of keeping the truck just steady, balanced, and again smooth. It absorbs bumps like few cars do. It's a comfortable ride, and I know I've said that already, but it's worth repeating. I did think about purchasing an L405 Range Rover, which again is the next iteration after this. Little bit smoother, still a sizable vehicle. Still has a lot of the character of the just the Range Rover and Land Rover character. And I wanted a diesel. I get jealous. I mean, I see diesel L322s on Facebook groups and what have you selling in the UK for a pittance. I mean, there are people selling these things for £1,500, £700, and yeah, I mean they need work. I mean, but even the good ones, 5 or 6,000 pounds. Um, and I am a diesel fan, but if I'm honest, I'm also a V8 fan. A little bit of grunt doesn't hurt my feelings, and it's got plenty of go. Although, I mean, modern diesel technology, especially sort of in the late noughties, you get some pretty serious torque and power, but you still get the diesel efficiency. So you might get 30 miles per the gallon in a later diesel, later being post 2002. One of the Mercedes that I really like is the 2005 2006 W211 E320 CDI, because that inline six direct injection diesel, it's before all of the diesel emission fluid and all that stuff, but after common rail diesel injection and direct injection. And so you get a really sort of, particularly by the seat of the pants, quick car. And on the highway, that thing would do over 42 miles to the gallon. In fact, the last one I had, I gave to my daughter who lives in the Midwest, and she used it for road trips, partly to come home, partly to go see friends, other places, and what have you. And it just got remarkable mileage and, again, reliability. I mean, those cars will easily go 250, 300,000 miles, as will the L322 diesels in the UK. I mean, what seems to get them more often than not is either electrical issues, suspension issues, or on the diesels, need to replace the turbochargers. They're twin turbo units, and that is, as you can imagine, a not inexpensive proposition. But once you do it, it's done, and at least for a good while. And so if you love the car and you're committed to the car, it may be worth the investment. I love this little town. This is the little town of Clifton, Virginia, and we actually do a Cars and Coffee here once every other week, at least in the nice months. We haven't decided if we're going to keep doing it in the off season. But I figure if the weather's nice enough to bring your old car out, it's probably nice enough to to try and get folks together and enjoy a little bit of camaraderie and company. Great little town, and a nice place to live, and a nice car culture. Uh, See, that was a railroad track, and in other cars that I have, it's teeth jarring going over that, and yeah, I mean, it was a little bumpy, but all told, it was pretty darn smooth, I have to say. So anyway, so I didn't buy the L405 because I read about some of the issues that folks were having, and it didn't seem as solid a vehicle as the L322, and less is known about them. They're newer cars, and so people are still figuring out the DIY hacks to owning them, and caring for them. So not yet. It's not the time for that car, at least not for me. And so we'll see. Maybe one of these days I'll think about doing a later one. But honestly, I'd be tempted to import a diesel L322 from Europe, Germany, or Spain. Probably Spain, just given corrosion issues. After they pass the 25-year-old mark, which should be in the not too distant future. Um, they are they're getting older. In my state, well, so anywhere in the U.S., most of you probably know, there's a rolling 25-year limit for the federal DOT and EPA in terms of importing old cars. And so once it passes that 25-year, you don't have to meet all the standards that you do if you try and import something younger. And ever since they got rid of the gray market in the late '80s, importing a unique vehicle from Europe or anywhere in the world to North America or to the U.S. has been just catastrophically expensive. Once in a blue moon, you'll see somebody that's done it legally, or people that have tried to sort of skirt the rules. Yeah, I'm not that rich, and you hear stories of people's cars being confiscated by the federal government and then just absolutely destroyed. Just wrecked um, because they're not legal for road use in the U.S. Don't really have the money to throw away on rolling the dice on that, even if I knew how to skirt the rules. Um, and I'm not looking for comments on how to skirt the rules. I've read enough about it. I could fake it if I wanted to, but let's not do that. So anyway, I think importing a diesel L322, especially or you can get a really nice one for 10,000 euros. Um, that might be worth trying just for a little bit of fun. But see, back over the railroad tracks and just smooth as silk. Um, but we'll see. I'm not sure. I might roll the dice on a later one of these days. But it's just such a good car, and it just works. Everything just works together. It doesn't necessarily work. In fact, I have a check engine light that comes on periodically, and I reset it with my tool, and it's a code for an oxygen sensor. When we were doing the head gaskets, sorry, not head gaskets, the valve cover gaskets, I replaced what should have been, or what we thought was the failing oxygen sensor, but turns out that wasn't it. For the time being, until next time, I'm really compelled to take it into the shop. I just reset it with my home, scan and reset tool, and it's all right. But so it's not without its issues, but um, it just works as a vehicle. It's a great all-around car, um, and one that I've certainly, like I said, just really become quite enamored with. Um, Famous last words. I mean, as soon as I say that, I get a wild hair and sell a car just because I can. But I still got some things I'd like to do with this. Again, I've had it for a month. I'd like to keep it for a while and play with it. Though my totally that stupid counterpart, Jonathan, he's sort of in line to buy it from me after I spend all the money on making it better. I'm sure he'll give me about 50 cents on the dollar for what I'll have in it by then. I'm notorious for spending the money to fix up a car and then sort of getting bored and moving on. I try to break even, but don't know how break evenable a L322 Range Rover is. There's a lot of room to spend money if you have the money and you want to do things with the car. So never know. We'll see what happens. It's a labor of love or passion, car passion. Um, I don't know. I don't know in the long run what that'll work out to in terms of my tenure with this car, but yeah, for the time being, I like it. But you know, like I said, at 21 years old, there's not much that's not known about these cars. Do you have to pay more attention to it than you do a Camry or my Tacoma pickup truck? Sure. Um, but isn't that part of the charm? One of the things that a lot of motoring journalists talk about is automotive character, the character of different cars. And that's very often, and I think we've even done it on our blog a number of times, it's very often equated with character flaws. It's those sort of quirks that are endearing and also sort of force you to bond with the vehicle. Um, I've already bonded with this vehicle. I've taken the console apart because this center console area, the black sections, uh, just the finish on them gets nasty. And I found a replacement online, but it required painting. So I actually bought some rubberized spray paint to give it the same sort of finish as factory. And it came out remarkably well, if I do say so. But just taking that out is two, four, I think six T25 or T20 screws. Um, and you pop off where the shifter surround, and then the black panel comes out really easily, and you pop out the cup holder. But it's actually pretty easy to work on. It's kind of fun to own them if you like tinkering. And one of the things that I like to do with old cars that I've bought, old being relative, sometimes really old, sometimes 21 years old, that 19 or 2004 seems like yesterday, although it was the year my younger daughter was born. So you know it's a good while ago. She's 21, as is this vehicle, obviously. um, uh, but uh, but they're approachable and they're manageable if you like to tinker, and again, I do, very much. So anyway, um, that's uh, that's part of the joy of owning one of these things, is not being afraid to get your hands dirty, not being afraid to take things apart, put them back together. There's videos all over the internet for just about anything you need to do. I mean, just this past weekend, I replaced one of the exterior A-pillar trims because it had a crack in it. They're available aftermarket on eBay all day long. I think I bought the pair just so they would match, and it turns out actually the aftermarket one was a very good match for the existing one, so I haven't changed the other one. But I think the pair was $80, free shipping. Sure, it came from China or Latvia or something like that, but again, videos that tell you the secrets of doing that. Um, there are videos that teach you how to take apart the center console. Because again, it's intimidating sometimes if you don't know what you're doing on those things. Um, I will say, I mean, with the V8, I work from home, so I'm not commuting in this vehicle, and I might not want to, just because it is a big vehicle. I used to drive into Washington, D.C. every day, and it is a big vehicle, but it's a pretty thirsty vehicle. And as I pull into the gas station right now, I would share with you that you don't pass a lot of gas stations in this car. On the highway, you might get 20 miles per gallon. For the back roads where I've just been driving, it's closer to 12, 13. But that's the price you pay for driving something like this. Um, but I tell you, I I'm planning to hold on to it for a little while. Famous last words, maybe, but it's a good car.